Welcome to the Nugget podcast, where you can learn how to become the bank, build wealth, and accumulate streams of income perfect for your savings or IRAs. You'll hear from industry experts, seasoned veterans, and everyday investors. Our goal is to teach you how to invest in notes, one nugget of knowledge at a time. Here's your host, Kevin Galang.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the No Nuggets podcast, where you learn how to turn other people's debt into income for your savings or IRA. Last week's Note Nugget was about seller finance notes, which are a small but important part of the mortgage market. Investors can buy seller finance notes right now in their own backyard and collect the mortgage payment just like a bigger bank would. When it comes to mortgages in general, it's commonplace for people to think of mortgages on residential homes, apartment buildings, and even commercial properties like office spaces. But you can put a lien on almost anything and hold a note against it. In fact, I know investors who have held mortgages on jet skis and cattle. I hold a mortgage currently, or a lien rather, on 2 work trucks in my IRA. You can get creative with being a lender. If it's a non-traditional asset you're using for security for your note, I highly recommend running it by a local real estate attorney to make sure you're not doing anything illegal, because that's the last thing that you want to deal with. When it comes to notes and mortgages, there's also an uncommon but intuitive form of real estate that many investors hold notes against, and that's land. Raw land. Dirt as far as the eye can see type of land. Although, in theory, if there's an open lot in your neighborhood, you could buy that note and sell it via seller financing. But that's another Note Nugget for another day. For now, this week, we will talk all about how investors invest in raw land to get real returns. Before we dive into our guest bio for this week, don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts to help us reach more investors who might want to become the bank like you and I. Armed with $3,000, gut-wrenching fear, and absolutely no real estate experience, Mark bought his first few parcels of raw land in 2001. Today, Mark is the author of Dirt Rich, the ultimate guide to helping you build a passive income, and owner of Frontier Properties, a very reputable, successful land investing company, and has been buying and selling land full-time since 2001. By focusing on working smart, not hard, he has completed over 5,500 land deals with an average ROI of over 300% on cash flips and over 1,000% on the deals he sells with financing terms. Prior to his land investing success, Mark had a high-stress, soulless corporate job and felt trapped in a state of solo economic dependency. Escaping solo economic dependency changed Mark's life in so many positive ways that he decided to teach, coach, and mentor others to help them achieve their financial goals. Even though Mark invests a lot of his time helping others, he stays actively involved in running his land investing business and is dedicated to teaching the most current and relevant real-world land investing methods to his students. Now, for our note investors that are listening that are unfamiliar with the idea of investing in land because they're used to thinking about residential or commercial mortgages, what does it mean to invest in land?
So to invest in land as a note investor is a bit tricky, actually.
Interesting.
Because land is an inefficient market. So it's one of those few markets where a buyer and seller agree on the value. So the way that I structure my offers, for example, let's say, Kevin, that you own, let's say, 10 acres in Texas, right? Wait, so where do you live?
I live in Tampa.
You live in that's right. You live in Tampa. So let's say you owe $200 in back taxes on this 10-acre parcel in Texas. Well, you're advertising 2 important things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to that raw land. And number 2, you're distressed financially in some weird way because you haven't paid your property taxes. And we don't pay our taxes. We don't value them in the same way.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the lowest comparable sale on your 10-acre parcel. I'm going to divide by 4. And that's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So I'm going to send you an actual offer. So let's say that your land is $10,000 as the lowest comparable sale. I'm going to send you an offer for $2,500. Now, you accept it because for you, $2,500 is better than nothing. This entire time, the county treasurer is sending you notices. Kevin, if you don't pay your property taxes, we're going to auction off that property to a tax deed or tax lien investor. Now, in reality, 3 to 5% of people accept my quote-unquote top dollar offer. But you accept it. After I go through this due diligence or in-depth research, I've got to confirm you still own the property, confirm the back taxes are only $200, make sure there's no breaks in the chain of title, no liens or encumbrances. Then essentially what I'm going to do is go through this whole due diligence checklist. I have my team in the Philippines do it. Costs about $11. If it's $5,000 or less, if it's $5,000 or more, I'll close through a traditional title company. But that team's connected to an American title company, so it's all good. Anyways, it all checks out. We go through a whole property list. So I buy it from you for $2,500. Now we're going to get to the note piece in a second. But I'm going to sell this property 30 days or less. I'm going to make a cash flow with a note, just like a rental home. So, Kevin, I have a built-in best buyer. Do you know who it is?
Who?
The neighbors. The neighbors. So I'm going to send out neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Protect your privacy, protect your views, know your neighbor. So oftentimes the neighbors will buy it. Now, if they pass, I'll go to my buyers list. If they pass, I'll go to a little website you may have never heard of. It's called Craigslist, 10th most trafficked website in the United States.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's cool. It actually disrupted an industry called newspapers.
What?
So I know, it's insane. And then there's even a smaller one called Facebook, buy-sell groups and the marketplace.
I've heard of that one.
You've heard that one. And then there's the lands, landmodo.com, landandfarm.com, landsofamerica.com, landflip.com, landhub.com. These are platforms where people buy and sell raw land every day. But the way that we're going to sell it is what's going to be interesting to you. Because what we're going to do is we're going to ask for a $2,500 down payment. So I'm on this 10 acres. So I'm going to get my money out on the down.
Right.
But I could go 6 to 10 months out. And then I'm going to make it a car payment. Let's say $449 a month at 9% interest for the next 84 months. So I've got this one-time sale. I've got recurring passive income of $449 a month at 9% interest over the next 84 months. But Kevin, I have no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And because I'm not dealing with a tenant, I'm exempt from Dodd-Frank, RESPA, or the SAFE Act. So the game that we play is, can we create enough of these land notes where our passive income exceeds our fixed expenses, and now we're working because we want to, not because we have to. But the interesting part about this for you as a note investor is, oh my gosh, Mark has a big $100,000 acquisition he wants to make in Tennessee. And he has $200,000 in note portfolio. I can buy $100,000 of that note portfolio from Mark. So 50 cents on the dollar. Now Mark can go make his acquisition, and now I'm getting this ridiculous yield on my investment with very little risk. The underlying issue for you is, if Mark defaults, you're stuck with the underlying asset of raw land. Do you have the confidence to go and resell that asset and make my initial margin of 300 to 1,000%? If the answer is yes, you've got a great business. If the answer is no, then you have to get educated and learn how to do what I do.
When it comes to being a lender, we're fortunate to have the ability to lend against almost anything, raw land included. You can create cash flow and build wealth with land loans. It's definitely possible. To learn more about how to do it from Mark The Land Geek, head over to notenuggets.com/land-notes.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Note Nuggets podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get access to additional weekly value nuggets and get notified with episode updates. To subscribe, all you have to do is head over to subscribe.notenuggets.com. If you have any questions about this episode or note investing, book a time on Kevin's calendar at contact.notenuggets.com. We'll see you next week with another note nugget to add to your tool belt.